a sensitive person who has a tendency to second guess themselves? If so, I am really glad you're here. We are going to talk about exactly that in this episode. Welcome to SelfKind. I am your host, Erica Webb, and this is a podcast for highly sensitive people who want to navigate the tricky parts of being sensitive in a world that often just doesn't feel like it is built for us. So you are in the right place if that is you. We're going to talk a little bit today about why, as highly sensitive people, we might have a tendency to second guess ourselves, doubt ourselves, have difficulty with trusting ourselves. It's something that I see a lot as a counsellor in the space who works with highly sensitive and neurodivergent people. It is really common to second guess ourselves, to feel like we're often wrong, to feel like everybody else is right and we're missing something. And so let's talk a little bit about why that is. So I've got a few reasons that this might happen. The first one is around the way that we process information. So we know that one of the hallmarks of being a highly sensitive person is the depth of processing that we engage in. We tend to process things more deeply than people who aren't highly sensitive. And that means that we are making links and connections that other people simply might not be making. It is why we don't particularly like small talk, but we will get into a really deep conversation with someone and find that very nourishing. And when we're making these sort of different connections, depending on who you are with, there might be a chance that the people that you're with just kind of be like, I don't get it, right? Because you're making connections and links between things where they see the A to B and you're not seeing it that way. You are seeing connections that other people might miss. Now, this is why it can be so amazing to foster relationships with other highly sensitive people. And there's loads of us out there because we make up about 30% of the population. So you've got good scope to find more people that are like you. But it can be the case that people go, I don't really get what you mean, or I've never thought about it that way, or that's not how I'm thinking about this. I'm seeing A to B. I know I've certainly been on the receiving end of that, and I'm much better at navigating that as an adult. But when I was younger, I just assumed, oh my gosh, I'm wrong. Everybody else is right. And my way of seeing this situation, or even, this book, we used to do like literature reviews as kids in school, and I would be like making up all these different sort of reasons why the author had done what they'd done, and I was wrong. But, it's so interesting as highly sensitive people to go down those rabbit holes and to make those connections, and not everybody's going to come with you on that journey. But it can mean that you second guess yourself because you're seeing things from a different perspective. It's like looking at an object that has, different information on all the different sides, and the people that you're talking to can see one side and you've taken a walk around the whole thing, right? Of course, you're not going to see things in the same way because you have different information. So that's one of the reasons why we might second guess ourselves as highly sensitive people. The second reason is because we tend to get overwhelmed a little more easily than other people. And when you are experiencing overwhelm and everybody else seems fine, the most logical answer to that is that there's something about me that means that I might be wrong because everybody else seems fine, right? If we come back to that idea that about 30% of us are highly sensitive, then 70% of us aren't. And I know that I have certainly developed a community in my life where most of us are sensitive. And so I tend to live in a little bit of an echo chamber. But it's very apparent when I am not amongst highly sensitive people and I am overwhelmed and they are not. It is so easy to believe that you are a problem in that scenario, or something's wrong, or that you are incorrect in your interpretation. But the truth is that as a sensitive person, you are taking more stuff in, you are interpreting it more deeply, and you are making other connections. And so you're processing differently, not in a broken way, but it can lead you to second guess and question the validity of your response because you don't see it mirrored by other people. And that's something that as humans, we really get guided by. We look for responses in other people. We look for our own reactions to be mirrored. We're sort of like looking to see, am I getting this right? Am I doing this right? And if we're not seeing that, then we might believe that it's us that's wrong. There is definitely a possibility that if you've been raised in a way that you're kind of way of seeing the world was really championed and nurtured, that you assume you're right and everybody else is wrong. I've certainly seen that in some highly sensitive people that I know, but more often than not, it will be the other way around, where you assume that you are wrong and everybody else is right. Another reason that you might second guess yourself as a highly sensitive person is because of the depth of empathy that you experience. What can happen as a highly sensitive person who has a depth of empathy that is very high or great or deep is that we have a tendency to feel other people's emotions. And it can be difficult to figure out, well, what's theirs and what's mine? And when we are experiencing sort of that empathy towards another person and we're sensing, okay, they're upset, they're angry, they're this, they're that, but it's not ours, we might have a really hard time starting to pull apart what's mine, what's theirs, and what is kind of the cause of that, right? Because if somebody's feeling sad or mad, but we haven't experienced the thing that made them feel that way, our brain is still going to be trying to figure out, well, why do I feel that? Right? Why do I feel that? And we might be kind of scanning the environment, figuring out like, why am I feeling that way? And come up with not much. And so it might feel very difficult then to trust what you're feeling, because sometimes it's not even yours. You're picking up on the stuff that's around you. And so when we can learn to kind of differentiate between, oh, I don't think that's mine. Like, this is mine, that is theirs. Set sort of boundaries and have ways of learning how to hear our own inner kind of voice and feelings and emotions and sensations, then we might be able to trust that a little more clearly. But when we're in that state of kind of being muddled with other people's stuff, it can be hard to differentiate what's ours and consequently kind of match up what we're experiencing with what we're feeling. And that absolutely will lead us to second guess or question what it is that we're noticing. One more thing I want to mention here is that depending on other elements of your neurotype and how you see the world, it might also be possible for you that you have learned to take your cues from other people. And so you kind of, we sort of talked about this already, but you might be sort of looking towards other people to figure out what's the appropriate way to behave here. Because I've been told that my way is too emotional, too deep, too complicated, too whatever. And so we look out and we go, well, what's the right way to do this? Should I be crying? Should I not be crying? Should I be smiling? Should I be laughing? Should I be a little more somber? And we might be trying to figure that out by watching other people. It's like there's this element of outsourcing your take on the world if you've learned that your take is often misunderstood, not accepted, or labeled as wrong. And that might have only happened when you were a little kid, but there's a chance you've carried it with you into your adulthood. Because the thing is, when your emotional expression isn't safe, right? You are being too emotional, you are crying too much, you are being too deep, then you might just learn to shut those natural instincts down and then start taking your cues from the outer world. And of course, you're going to be second guessing yourself in those scenarios because what is true for you isn't safe to be expressed. And so if you've been labeled as too deep, too emotional, too complicated, it might feel safer just to keep your mouth shut than it does to speak up. But then you've got this mismatch, right, of what you're feeling versus what you're expressing, what you believe you know versus what you will say. And that can be really tricky to navigate as a highly sensitive person. So all of these things combined, maybe you resonate with one more than the others, or maybe there's a couple that you're like, oh my gosh, that's me. These are some of the reasons why, as a highly sensitive person, you might second guess yourself sometimes. Perhaps you've got other examples or other reasons that you can see. And if you do, I would love to hear them. So make sure you come and connect with me. But these are real challenges that you might face as a highly sensitive person. And I guess the question then becomes, well, what do I do about it? And this is where we really want to be fostering a sense of self-trust. This is something that doesn't happen overnight. You know, as the good old saying goes, it doesn't happen overnight. But if we allow ourselves to become more aware of and accepting of and kind towards our sensitivity, I think that trust comes with that compassion ultimately. And so, of course, the question then becomes, well, what do we do about that? Because that's a lot of stuff that might lead us to second guess ourselves, and second guessing ourselves doesn't feel comfortable. And yet it might be very familiar. And so what I want to offer you here is this. There isn't one magical formula for learning to trust yourself and not second guessing yourself all the time. But what I will say is that when we're aware of why that might be happening, when we're aware of the fact that, oh, maybe it's not an inherent flaw in me, maybe this is some of the conditioning that I've had to absorb as a highly sensitive person in this world, then we might just get enough of a sense of permission from ourselves to trust ourselves a little more, to get curious more often of like, what is it that I really think? What is it that I really feel? And it's starting to excavate for those beautiful gifts and starting to see that, yeah, my way of seeing the world isn't wrong. My way of interacting isn't wrong. It might be different, and it might be not matching all the time what I see in other people, but it is still very valid, and it is a way of seeing the world and interacting with the world that the world really needs. And so being more of that, bringing more of ourselves, might just start to feel a little safer and a little safer and a little safer. Surround yourself with other people who are sensitive too. We often are very drawn to each other. And so you might find that, yeah, like my friends are the same, or there's this person that I know who is the same. Time together, time to be with highly sensitive people can make you feel very validated, because you realize, oh, I'm not an anomaly. I'm just part of a group of people who sees things from a different angle. And that is a beautiful thing. Thank you so much for sharing this episode with me. I would love if you would subscribe on whatever platform you're listening or watching on. And if you felt like leaving a comment, a rating, or a review, that would absolutely make my day. You can connect with me over on Instagram as well. And come on over if you want more from me and join my mailing list. I will pop the link in the show notes. All right, have a great rest of your day, and I will be back with more really soon.